Really excited to have you here to talk about the challenges of getting promotion and how you might do that in this post-COVID world that we are living in at the moment. So while we're waiting for others to join us, please do say hi in the chat. Let us know where you are. Maybe you can let me know what you had for breakfast, or you can let me know which spring flowers you're seeing at the moment, whichever suits you. It'd be great to hear from you. So do introduce yourself in the chat while we just wait for a couple more people to come into the room. And you'll find you can't unmute yourself, but don't worry about that. Just type into the chat. So a little introduction and either what you had for breakfast or what spring flowers that you're seeing at the moment. I've seen lots of beautiful bluebells. I really love bluebells. I think it's something, a flower I loved as a child, actually. So when I see them now, it reminds me of my childhood. But what about you? Do you type in the chat and say hello? Seem to have quite a bunch at the moment, or maybe they're typing furiously. Yes, maybe I'll ask our panel while we're waiting for everyone to join us. Janice, what about you?
I was just thinking buttercups and quite a lot of dandelions. We're going for the meadow aesthetic at the moment because I haven't got the lawnmower out. So yeah, buttercups and dandelions at the moment.
the meadow aesthetic. Yes, I remember as a child we used to put the buttercups up to our chin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. On yellow, it meant you like butter. I think that's something we made up.
I remember that too.
Or the dandelions, you'd blow off the thing and you'd make a wish.
Yeah, I love that. So Claire's here. Oh, homemade bircher with mango berries and melon for brekkie this morning. Well, Claire, that sounds nutritious and delicious, doesn't it? Yeah, it sounds really, really nice. Thank you for introducing yourself. So those of you who just joined us, we're just saying hello, sharing either what we had for breakfast or what spring flowers we've been really pleased to see recently. Joseph, do you want to share?
Sadly, I don't know the names of flowers. So I'll talk about breakfast, which I'm yet to have.
Oh no. Okay.
So, but I'll have the reason I do that is because I have a very big breakfast and that I don't eat during the day. So I need to prepare myself. So after the session, I'll have breakfast. Lovely,
lovely. What do they say? Breakfast like a king. I can't remember what you lunch as, and then they say dinner as a pauper. That's the right order. Yeah, I don't necessarily practice that, but it sounds like you're doing all the right things, Joseph. Okay, thank you for those who are lunch like a prince. Okay, thank you. Yeah, lovely. Well, those of you who haven't introduced yourself yet, please feel free to do so. We always love to hear who's here. Okay, hi Liz. You haven't had breakfast yet, but you can see white roses and clematis. Oh, beautiful, white roses. That is a treat. Fantastic. So those of you who just joined, feel free to just say hi, but we're going to begin now. Lots to get through, and we really want to make sure we do so. Oh, I can't resist this though. Joanne has seen, is it allium bulbs? So good morning, good morning. So as you will see, your mic is muted. And the only way to communicate is through the chat. And we just do that so we can manage everything, but we'll be keeping an eye on the chat. And because today is all about getting a promotion, we really want to answer your questions. So if you have really specific questions that you want to ask the audience, please don't hold back. We want to answer as many of your questions as possible and really make this a really valuable session for you. So I want to start by saying a big thank you on behalf of my social enterprise, Rocking Your Teens. Any donations that you made towards this event will have gone to Rocking Your Teens. And Rocking Your Teens is a social enterprise that supports 13 to 14-year-olds to increase their aspirations and also holistically supports them to make good choices in life and develop good mental health skills and self-esteem. If you want to find out more about Rocking Your Teens, I will later on post their website into the chat so you can find out more. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jenny Garrett, and I'm an award-winning coach, author, and leadership trainer. My books explore the empowerment of working women and women in leadership roles. And together with my team, we use our experience in coaching and leadership to support women and those from ethnically diverse backgrounds to progress at work. But you don't miss out if you're part of the majority group in the UK, because we also do lots of work with the majority group to help you make inclusion happen and develop your cultural intelligence. So today's session, as I've said, is focused on helping you realize that promotion that you've been seeking and sharing with you how a coach can help. I think that there's a lot of mystery around what coaching is. People often ask me that and are a bit confused about what coaching is versus other forms of helping, who has a coach, all of that sort of thing. So we're going to do some work to demystify it today. But please ask us those burning questions, ask us those naive questions. We're really happy to hear them. And if you don't want me to mention your name, for example, if you want to make that question anonymous, just send it directly to me. So in the chat, you can say, direct it just to Jenny Garrett, and I won't read out your name if you don't want me to, but I really don't want you to leave this session today without having your questions answered. So during this session, experienced executive coaches, Janice, Carol, Joseph, and Suki, who you can see on this screen, they're all coaches who are listed in the Diverse Executive Coach Directory, a directory that's been set up to connect corporate organizations and individuals with the top executive coaches in the country from diverse backgrounds. And I will put our website in the chat as well. Do check them out. There are around 30 coaches in the directory now, all of who I would completely vouch for. They've all been vetted, had reference checks, check their qualifications. They all make sure they're supervised and have insurance, and are really working at the top levels in the UK. So you can't go wrong with any of them. So the process for today is that Jackie, Suki, Joseph, and Carol will briefly introduce themselves. I will start off by asking some questions, and then we're going to open it up to you for your questions and reflections in the chat. But as I said, I wanted to make it really fluid today. So if you feel, I don't want to wait to ask a question, I need to ask a question now, please do put it into the chat. So there is a hashtag for today's event, and it is career promotion. Okay, so use that hashtag. And in terms of our handles, if you're a Twitter user, I'm at Jennifer Garrett. Janice is Blue Sky 1001. Joseph is Ruvand, Ruuvand, and Suki is special. She does not partake in Twitter, but you can find her on LinkedIn, and you can find us all there as well. Okay. Oh, I'm excited. We're already getting questions through. It's going to be a good one. So I will ask your question to the person who's asked it, but I'm going to start first of all by asking, starting with Janice and asking her to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to see you all here, or to have you all here. I'm delighted to be here. My name's Janice Taylor. I'm a career coach and writer. I'm based in Brighton, and I work with adults who come to me or seem to find me when they're feeling a bit lost and directionless, and they want some clarity about where they should take their career. And that often does include, whether or not they should be thinking about promotion where they are, or whether it's time to move on. That's me.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Janice. I'll go to Carol next.
Hi everyone, my name's Carol Stewart. I'm an executive career and leadership coach, founder of The Bounding Solutions and author of Quietly Visible, Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman. And I specialise in coaching introverted women who are senior leaders. And I coach women to lead with confidence, influence and impact. And I also work with organisations to develop their talent and provide a range of workshops, training and talks on personal development, career development and leadership development.
Lovely. And Suki?
Good morning, I'm Suki Collins. My company is Pebbles Coaching. I am a global 500 leadership award-winning business coach and accredited executive coach. I'm passionate about EDI, equity, diversity and inclusivity. I actually make sure that flows through everything I do. I'm responsible for building up a medical school from scratch, which is now in the top 5 in the UK. And I coach both in the private sector and public sector for people who want promotion at executive level, and also work with people after they've had the promotion as well, so they enjoy the promotion that they've earned. Thank you, Jenny.
Wonderful. And last but definitely not least, Joseph. Don't forget to unmute.
Rookie error. Thank you. I'm Joseph Ogbonna. I'm a leadership coach and helping people, when I say people, leaders and aspiring leaders, young, old in different sectors, with making decisions that they will actually implement. And some of those decisions might be about a promotion, about getting ahead in work. And it is drawing on their insights, their inner wisdom, because the wisdom is something I treasure. Now, much of my success with clients comes from a belief in possibility, because if it is possible to do something, why not have a go at it? Thank you, Jenny.
Love that. Already challenging us. I love that. Thanks so much. Actually, before we start, I'm just going to launch a quick couple of polls. So the first is, when was the last time that you were promoted at work? Was it less than 6 months ago, 6 months to 2 years ago, 2 to 5 years ago, or 5 years plus? Let me know. And if for some reason you can't see the poll, you are welcome just to type in the chat. It's always good to see it graphically. Okay, fantastic. Okay, everyone's completed the poll. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm just going to share the results with you. So if we see over half of you, it was over 5 years ago since you had a promotion. So I would say you're definitely in line for one right now. It's time, isn't it? 22% 2 to 5 years ago, and 22% 6 months to 2 years ago. Okay, and I'm curious actually, as I think about this, about how the pandemic has impacted promotions. Were there less when we were working remotely? So that's possibly something that can come into our conversation today. But yeah, 56% of you over 5 years ago. So thank you for sharing that. And I have another poll for you as well. It's going to let me get into it. Okay, well, it's not letting me get into the poll right now, but it was a simple question. So if you feel comfortable to do so, you can just give me a Y or actually, I can find it now. Here it is. So the question was, again, anonymous poll. Have you experienced career coaching? So yes or no, pretty simple. Have you experienced career coaching? Okay. Have you experienced career coaching? For one more response, and then we'd be at 100%, which would be fantastic. Okay, looks like we might not get to 100% this time, but pretty close, pretty close. Okay, so this was a very close poll, and so here we are. Hopefully you can see that. Again, 56%, so we're having this 56%, just over half, have not experienced career coaching, and 44% of you have, which is great. So we've got this mixture here. Those of you who have experienced career coaching, you might want to add some of your insights in here. Those of you who haven't, please do ask those burning questions that you've wanted to know about career coaching and what it entails here. We're really happy to answer them. So thank you so much for sharing, for interacting, and for letting us know a little bit about you. So I'm going to start with my first question. So in the UK, the cost of living is going up. Companies have higher costs. Our budgets are going up as well. We were talking about the cost of energy and fuel earlier today before we started this session. Because of that, are there certain things that we need to do before we ask for promotion? Is there research we need to do? Is there something we need to answer before we go straight in and ask for promotion? And I'm going to start with you, Carol. What do you think?
Right, so I think first of all, it depends on the organisation, because some organisations, it's a case of getting promoted when a vacancy arises. And so if that is the case for the organisation that you're in, is keeping an ear out for when opportunities come in your organisation and those positions that become available, and to start positioning yourself for them. If it's a case of where your organisation, you have to do a business case, you may have to do a business case and put forward why you should be promoted. And so it's about preparing yourself for that, doing the research so that you can present a business case that clearly highlights the benefit of you being promoted within the organisation, and also just checking that the budget is there as well.
Thank you so much. I think it's really important what you're saying, because quite often we just think, well, they should know. They should know I'm amazing and I deserve a promotion. But actually, this idea of business case might be new to people, but I'm hearing it's a really good thing to do. So thanks for bringing that to the table, Carol. And Joseph, what do you think?
Thank you. I agree with Carol. It depends. But my it depends, it goes inwards in the sense of, what is it? The question to ask is, what value would I bring to that promotion? That promotion I want, what value will I bring to it? What use would it be to the organization? Because the organization is there for itself, it's not there for you. So in getting a promotion, what would I bring to it? And I think it's that question of knowing that, but as well knowing that promotion I want, if there's a particular job I'm looking for a promotion into, do I know what that job is? Do I know how I fit into that job? Do you know daily what is required of that job? You don't want to get into a job and think, oh no, this is not the job I want. This is not where I can be my best. Because we do know lots of people who get promoted and then they don't fit the job. They aren't able to do it. You don't want to be in that position. For your career, for your success, know what you're walking into before you go in.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I also say, just be brave as well, because sometimes we underestimate our capability and we let that imposter syndrome hold us back, especially if we're from either, women or from a minority background. We can sometimes talk ourselves out of things. So completely agree, but also kind of don't forget to push and stretch yourself as well. What about you, Janice? What do you think?
I would wonder about, what that promotion means to you, actually. Just building on what Joseph was saying, looking inward a little bit. Is it about the money, or is it about using my technical skills and functional skills? Is it about allowing me to live the type of life I live? What does that promotion really mean to you? And I'm thinking about Edgar Schein's career anchors, and you might want to think back about what's driven your career, what's been the driving force behind your career. So I would be thinking about that. What does this promotion mean for me and the way I want to move forward in my career?
Great questions. You can hear what amazing coaches are. They are, can't you? By the questions that they're provoking right now. Suki, what do you think?
Well, it's fantastic answers, and I'm like going, oh my goodness, builds on what I tend to tell people. I think you've got to be very savvy about what happens in your organization. this is the employee market out there at the moment. And I think rather than saying its living standards are going up and, oh my God, I shouldn't be asking for a promotion, I think building on what you said, we should be looking at how am I going to add value? If they're saying we're going to cut cost here, we're going to cut cost here. I think if you've got any ideas at all that could earn you promotion, but also building on what Janice, Joseph, and Carol and yourself said, make sure it's the promotion you want. And one of the things I ask my people to do is do a SWOT analysis. It's just a little bit of a tweak on SWOT analysis, your strengths, your challenges, and your threats, and your opportunities. Look at it, build it, but also look at how am I going to add value? I think that is the most important thing. And what is this going to do for me? Those are the questions, but also savvy about how you go and negotiate things as well. That comes into it as well. Don't be shy. Just come forward and ask the question. That's what I say.
Love it. So we're hearing value, value, value. Be obsessed with the value that you bring. Create a business case if you need to show that value and why it matters. Look at career anchors. Think about your why. Do I really want it? And why do I want it? And also, really think this through. What are the strengths, opportunities, strengths, challenges, opportunities, and threats? So some great practical tips there that I'm hearing from these coaches, which I hope is setting you off in the right direction. I want to go straight to the question from the audience, actually, before I continue with mine, because I think it's a really brilliant question. So this person would like some tips on how to demonstrate in an interview that they are a thought leader, an influencer, and a strategic thinker. So I'll repeat the question because I know it's the first time that you're hearing it. They'd like some tips on how to demonstrate in an interview that they are a thought leader, an influencer, and a strategic thinker. And they also want to know, how do I project how great I am? How do they do that? So who wants to start with that question?
I'm happy to start with that.
Thanks, Carol.
So it's about how you promote yourself in that interview and talk about your achievements and the results that you've achieved and the difference that you've made as well. So when it comes to thought leadership is about sharing your knowledge and expertise. And so think about how you have done that, how you are the subject matter expert for your particular profession, for your particular field, and get that across when you're talking about and you're giving examples. So talk about, use sort of positive action verbs when you're describing what you've done. So I initiated this, or I implemented, or as a result of me investigating this. So think about how you can use the right language as well as the showcasing your results. Often what happens in promotion interviews, and this is something I often find with women and people from diverse backgrounds, is they don't self-promote. They don't sell themselves enough in the interview. So talk about your achievements, your successes. And when it comes to talking, showing that you're a strategic thinker, let them know that you're thinking about the bigger picture, that you see the bigger picture. So talk about, do your research on the organisation, where they're at, look at it from a bigger picture rather than just the initial role that you're going from, and get that across when you're having those discussions, when you're talking about, when you're responding to the answers.
Yes, that's such a comprehensive answer, Carol. And I definitely have seen that what some people do is because it's an internal promotion, they think they don't need to say things, don't they? So they think, well, that I've delivered on that project. I've made those savings. I don't want to over egg it because already, but they are marking you on what you say in the room. And it's really important to say things, even though you think people will know. Plus people forget as well. So, treat that interview as if it's a company doesn't know you and it's a brand new audience, I think is something to hold in mind as well.
Jenny, I think exactly what you said, but if you understand from the interviewer's point of view, they are looking at people perhaps internally as well as considering external people, and they may have a checklist of things to tick off. anything you don't say, even if they know it, they will not take off. And so it's just something to bear in mind. Go into the head of the person who's interviewing you and do that. Now, in addition to what Carol said, I think many times we think the interview is only in the room. I say to people, your interview starts before you get into the room. So if I say, for example, in an organization that I'm a thought leader, but I've not done anything to demonstrate that I'm a thought leader. I haven't written anything on LinkedIn, for example, or in the newsletter. I haven't shown it, and I'm saying I'm a thought leader. It's less convincing than if I'm already giving examples and people recognize the examples I'm giving.
Absolutely. I just want to apologize for my typo in the chat. Should have said see the bigger picture. But also Claudia Crawley, who is also one of our coaches, is agreeing with you, Joseph. You know, it starts before the interview. Make yourself visible as a thought leader in your organization, and give that evidence in the interview. It's not enough just to say I am, it's showing that you are. And we have some great thought leaders in this space in terms of our coaches. Carol is a LinkedIn top voice. How many times, Carol?
5 times.
5 times. Woo, woo. So, you know, it's people here who are experts at being thought leaders and being visible. So I would definitely check out Carol's newsletter, follow her on LinkedIn, and see that kind of, you know, see what she's doing to be a thought leader. But we're all doing it in our different ways as well. So checking out what these coaches are doing might give you some thoughts, some tips on what more you could do. Is there anything else anyone wants to add to that question?
I want to just say it's brilliant answers which you are saying. And one thing we have forgotten again, I think, is the value that we are bringing in to an organization, and also thoughtful and strategic leader. It's all about not now, what happened before. It's about how am I going to make a difference in the 5 to 10 years ahead. That is so important, especially with everything is changing, everything is fluid, and I think you need to stand out. So think of your unique selling point as well, and bring that and shine that out there to say, this is me, this is what I'm going to do for you. If you don't have me, that is your loss. I think that's going to be so important out there.
Love it, love it. I think one other thing on this is ask other people for feedback and use their words. Because sometimes you can't find the words yourself, you take your own skills for granted. And if perhaps you went round to the top, a few people and just said, if you were to describe me as a strategic thinker, what do I do? Or when have you seen me influence? Or, how do I show up as a thought leader? Then you can use their language to describe yourself. And modest people find it easier to say, well, this is what people say about me. So that can be a way around it as well. So thank you. I think some really, really great thoughts, some great questions there. I think there's so much we could unpack from that. But if you do have an interview coming up, we wish you the best of luck. You now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coaches here on your side wishing you success. So imagine us in the room with you, cheering you on. We've got another question here. If a manager sends me an email to thank me for something, so for example, a manager recently thanked me for booking her trip to a country she'd not been to before, and how I made her comfortable on this trip. I asked them to resend me, copying in 2 managers for their information. Okay, it's not a question, but it's a top tip. And I love that. So when you get feedback, say, resend that and copy in these important stakeholders so they can see how amazing I am, rather than me having to forward it on or it coming from me. And I think those of us who are, not brilliant at self-promotion, it's a great way for other people to self-promote. So I'm really enjoying the fact that we're co-creating in the moment some great tips and sharing in this session today. So I have another question for our coaches. What have you seen clients do to position themselves for promotion during the pandemic and more recently? So, you know, want to draw on your coaching practice here. What have you seen clients do to position themselves for promotion during the pandemic and more recently? And I'm going to start with you, Joseph.
Thank you, Jenny. The word in less dispensable comes to mind, or the phrase less dispensable. So in what you are doing in your work, are you making yourself less dispensable as the world is changing, as things are uncertain, so that you can be in a good position for that the company now needs you to continue to do what you're doing rather than can find somebody else to do it? And if you can do that with being yourself, being authentic, and being emotionally intelligent around what other people are doing and knowing where people are, then you are putting yourself in a great position. Now, our world revolves around relationships. And so the intelligence to build relationships, know who people are, be of use to people, so that allow people to be of use to you, so that in the organization you are creating relationships that will benefit you. Now, when that happens, you get to hear things that other people may not necessarily hear. If you're doing research, you get to find out what other people are doing, where the needs are in the company. And so people are using that to position themselves before the pandemic, during the pandemic, find out about what's going on. And if you are working hybrid, and you're working 1 day, 2 days in the office, how do you use your 2 days? Are you using your 2 days to sit at your desk and just do your work, which you could do at home? Or are you, in those 2 days, making sure that you're touching people, not physically touching people, but you're reaching people, building those relationships, because that is what will count.
Wonderful, great tips there. Really useful for us to think about that. How are you using your time? How are you maximizing those relationships and those touch points? I'm going to go to Carol next.
One of the things that I've seen is, but in terms of positioning yourself, is by getting sponsors. And for those of you who aren't aware of what a sponsor is somebody who is very senior in an organisation and very influential in an organisation, who can become your cheerleader, and they champion you to other people. So they will talk about you to the decision makers, or when opportunities come about, they will put you forward for it. And so look about getting a sponsor, someone who can be your cheerleader, who can champion you. But don't just think about internal sponsors as well. Think about stakeholders as well. So a client of mine, she was acting up into a role. New CEO came in. There was talk that she wasn't going to get the substantive position. And so what she started to do was position herself for it, developing relationships with the stakeholders who were at the same level as the CEO, and nurturing those relationships. And then they naturally started talking about her to the CEO. And one day when she said she was in the lift, and the CEO came into the lift, and he said, "Oh, you're such and such and such. Such and such and such was speaking about." And he talked about something that she'd done, which the stakeholders were very impressed with. And that brought her under the radar. And when the position became available, she applied for it and she got it. She got it on her merit, but it helped the fact that she had positioned herself in that way. And sometimes you may have to make a sideways move before you go up. In my last promotion, before I started my business 10 years ago, that was something that I did. I became aware of an opportunity in another area to where I worked. And so as a position came up at the level that I was at, I knew it wasn't going to be advertised for quite some time. A position came up at the level that I was at. So I applied for it, made a sideways move. Then once I was working within that area, I started to take on extra responsibilities that would get my name known, that would help me to position myself for when that position became available. And that is what I did. And then I became well known and visible within the area. Then when the position came, I applied for it and I got it.
two fantastic examples of sort of thinking strategically about your career. You're not planning for, you don't wait till the promotion is suddenly a possibility. You position yourself knowing what's coming and anticipating that. So a bit like a chess game, it feels like.
Can I just add something, Jenny, as well? Because a lot of people think that their work will speak for itself, but in the way that particularly we're hybrid working now, that is not always the case. And they call it tiara syndrome, where you think that you will get recognition for your work and that you will be rewarded for it. But many times you have to let people know or be visible and demonstrate that you have those skills and you have that ability to perform at that level. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I was just struggling to unmute there. I love that term, tiara syndrome. I hadn't heard it before, and yeah, it really stays in my mind now. Suki, your thoughts or your example?
Well, I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, answers. The only thing I can think of adding is that equation that's for the companies, credibility, visibility equals profitability. And I think it actually works well as us as well in human terms. And the people terms is credibility, visibility, promotion, because I think you always have to, as soon as you join a company, I think you need to be focused. If you want to go up that ladder, the career ladder, you need to be, it's all answers, I think both Joseph and Carol said, strategic, but don't be overtly strategic. But I think you have to go around being quite savvy about the politics that's going on in your organization if you want to stay in, or look at the stakeholders and how they behave. And I think position yourself in such a way that the promotion is an easy step up rather than a difficult step up, because you can already build the skills you need. And the visibility comes from, like I think Carol and Joseph said, make sure people see you. Don't just assume they know how good you are. Every chance you get, I mean, meetings, choose to go to meetings where the big stakeholders are present. And people, and then put your name somewhere in the minutes to say, this is what I added or whatever. So people do see that. The only problem is don't get carried away and then you'll end up doing too much work. You don't want that either. You want to get that promotion. So go for that.
Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it? You get overburdened and you then end up with your head down and not actually doing, doing that promotion piece.
It's that balance, getting it right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And Janice, what would you add?
The only thing I would add actually to those answers would be about, you might be able to get support from someone close to home, like your manager actually, and how aware is your manager of what you've achieved? Because again, you can't necessarily assume that they're going to remember or be aware of all the different things that you've achieved. And they may also be helpful in identifying any gaps that you might need to plug to make that next move up. So if you are in a position where you can have that sensible discussion with your manager, I would say go for that too.
Lovely. Yeah, so great tips. Yes, Joseph.
The last one, something else came to mind. I know somebody who has got the promotion because they went outside and got another job and let them know that this is what is happening, and that has got them the post.
Yeah, it's a risky one, isn't it? Because you have to be willing to leave and go to that promotion. And so you definitely can use it as leverage. I've definitely come across people who've done that. But sometimes what happens is they make a role for you to keep you, and then you find this role doesn't quite fit because they've just created a role. So there's pluses and minuses to it. But yeah, it's a great way to leverage. I would definitely say more men than women take that approach, in my experience. Janice?
I was just going to say, actually, just building on what Joseph was saying, because I remember at the BBC, actually, people would actually leave and then they would do something else for a couple of years, but actually quite often bring in those new skills. They then moved up that much quicker when they came back to the BBC. So that was something else that I observed happening with people as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, because what you're doing is suddenly they value, you've got all of this new knowledge and you're sort of become an expert outside that they want back in. The challenge with being in an organization for quite a long time is people start to take you for granted, don't they? And they don't necessarily value all of your expertise that you've got to offer. So that, going out to come back in can be a great way. And I know that happens a lot in the civil service, going on secondments, going to different parts of the government, and then coming back can enable you to take some leaps up. I think, as Carol said, you know, up, it's not always up either. Sometimes it's that sideways moves. Broadening your skills can really help you. So we have a question again from the audience that I'd like to share. So how do you manage a situation whereby you don't have one of the essential criteria on the job description, but have all of the others and all of the desirable as well? Yeah, you might have transferable skills, but not specific. So what do you think? There's one piece of the essential criteria they don't have, but they have everything else, and they have and more. Yeah, what would you advise them to do? Joseph, I saw you on mute.
Yeah, I was speaking to someone who's quite senior, and they're doing some interviews. This is in the civil service, and one of the things he said is that if you realize soon enough that the list of criteria sometimes is a wish list, that there will be nobody who has everything there to the level that they want. So there's no reason to exclude yourself because you don't have one thing. Make as good a case for yourself on everything else, and and just leave out the one that you don't have. It may be that that is a developable criteria, and they will take you on and allow you to develop into it. So yes, if you think you've got that, all the other ones, make a good case for it, build on it, and go for it.
Carol?
Yeah, and I would say if you tick all the boxes apart from one essential criteria, then as Joseph said, still go for it, but demonstrate even if you haven't got that experience, and you haven't got the skills aren't transferable that you have to meet that essential criteria, still go for the position, and talk about how, even though you don't have that particular, how you will develop these skills to so that you have that. And what I would think about doing is, before you even sort of apply for that particular role, is look at how you can get that experience, whether it is within the organization by shadowing, job shadowing, acting up into a temporary position, or even doing some voluntary work outside the organization in an organization where those skills are used, so that you can get that experience. But don't just write yourself off just because you don't have that. Look at how you can develop that skill.
Do you want to say something, Suki?
I do, and it's brilliant answers. And I always find it very difficult to fit in with these guys. They're so knowledgeable, and they're like got so much experience behind them. So I got to eke my little brain to see anything happen that I could add value to. And one of the things that just came to my mind, and the SCOT analysis I spoke about, but also look at the organization. It's like Joseph said, and Carol said, read between the lines what the job is actually asking you to do as well. And also look at the bigger picture of the structure, where people are, what their backgrounds are, and start looking at how you can add value outside what you've done from work, bring those in. That's why I always think doing the SCOT analysis actually starts to focus you more about things that you have actually done and you've forgotten because it's been a while since you utilized those skills. So I would say go for it, but just position yourself, like Joseph and Carol said, in a positive light. How I am going to add value to this organization, how am I going to add value to the team, whatever, and how I'm going to do it. Just because you only meet one essential criteria doesn't mean, because job descriptions are written in that moment. The company could have moved further along since then by the time you come to do the interview. So you need to be savvy about where is it going. Look at the other companies around, whatever is going on, to understand how you are going to position yourself. That's one of the things I think we need to do more of.
Wonderful. And something I've done before many years ago is call the organization and just say, actually, I haven't got this thing, but I have a lot of other things to offer. Is it worth me applying? And that can be a really encouraging call, because it can help you, it can open the door a little bit, help you understand a bit more about the organization. I mean, it depends who you get to speak to and how much decision-making power they have, but that can help you feel confident to apply in the first place. Did you want to say something, Janice?
I was just going to say actually about making the call,
Oh.
but seeing if you could talk to maybe the post holder or someone who has a lot to do with that role, and just get a feel for what's actually involved with the role itself. Actually, sometimes you can kind of dig between the lines or read between the lines and just hear, okay, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis, and more strategically as well. So I think picking up the phone, I think, can be really useful on this one.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Janice. Now, there's a question about academia here and I wondered, Suki, with your expertise in this space, if you wanted to speak to this question. Do you want me to read it out?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So when promotion paths are traditional, and in academia, this is usually research-led, but you followed a route focused more on student support, it doesn't seem to matter how well you excel in this. There's no formal promotion route linked to what motivates you, like gives you satisfaction. How can you use this to argue for promotion when there isn't a route that values what you've concentrated on, irrespective of how important it is? And that could happen in any role, can't it? You know, you might be really developing people, but they want to promote you based on how much, the account value that you've brought in. But what you've done is made sure you've retained people, for example, but they're not valuing that. So what do you do in these sorts of situations?
I think I will again look at what exactly I'm looking for, Claire, because it's Claire Robertson who's written the question there. What exactly are you looking for? Are you looking for a promotion within what you're actually doing? Or do you want to move into the research-led? I think it's important to be clear about what you are looking for, because out there now there is TEF, there's REF. REF measures your research and TEF actually measures your teaching abilities. So if your organization isn't promoting you on the strength of your teaching, I think it's like what Joseph and Carol and I think Danny and Claire, Janice said, is that you need to start looking around and see if there are other organizations which will value what I am doing. And also don't go and leave the organization. I'm not telling you to do that. Just go and visit those organizations and get the information. Sometimes what happens with higher education is we are so busy with student numbers, we forget about the employees that we have around us and the strengths and potential we have around us. But sometimes you need to bring that back into your organization to highlight it. That's what we ask our employees to do at Swansea University: collaborate and then bring in. And also by collaborating, you're actually becoming visible. It's that credibility, visibility I was talking about. You need to show them how you can add value to your organization. Just because you're not doing research and bringing in the grants doesn't necessarily mean that you're not adding value with the students. Like if they got first class, second class, 2-1s, whatever, write those stats and take them to your person who you are talking to about promotions and let them know how important that side is as well as research. I think that's going to be important, I think, showing your strengths.
Thanks so much, Suki. Do you want to say something, Carol, on this? You're no, you didn't. Okay, no problem. Just to say also, just from my experience here, there is something that's in higher education that might have to give. So you might be taking on all of these sort of citizenship roles where you do a lot of supporting or taking on extra responsibility. But if you keep doing it and it's hindering your career path, what you actually want, you might have to make a decision not to always be that person. Or you might say, actually, I'm going to let go of some of that academic roles to take this path. So sometimes it's you might have to make a tough decision around this as well. And sometimes you might think that the job satisfaction is more important than the promotion as well. So going back to your values and your anchors and what keeps you waking up in the morning and really wanting to do this work. But it is a challenge. And I think particularly in academia, more women take on these pastoral, supportive citizenship roles. And sometimes it can hold us back from the sort of status that we might want or the security that we might want in our roles. So there is a bit of a trade-off. The key is to get to the top of your institution and create the rules. That's what I recommend you do. Get to the top and change it all. So that's my recommendation to you. So our last question, we haven't got a lot of time, so we're going to have to ask you coaches, we've got about 10 minutes to be reasonably brief, but also as informative and amazing as you have been. To my last question, people can do a lot on their own to advance their career. What's the difference that you think career coaching makes? There's lots of tips we've given. People can find books and do things on their own. But what's the difference that you think it makes when they actually have a career coach? And I'm going to start with you, Janice.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. I think people can sometimes forget or lose sight of what they've achieved and the value they add. I know we've been talking about value add. So I think working with a coach can help you to articulate and package up what you've done and make it easier for you to recognize it. And then you can think about how you can take that forward. So that would be my response to that.
Wonderful. Yeah, great. Yeah, that's sort of, actually I can't do this on my own because I can't be objective about myself, and needing someone to help you and find those braggables. That's what I like to call it. What are those things that I can brag about in an authentic way? Suki, what do you think?
I totally agree. And also I think it's important because we're not very good at selling ourselves. We're not very good at making ourselves visible. I had to learn that, how good I am. I always have to remember when I'm presenting like this, all my positives need to come out because that's what people anchor to. And if you actually say, oh my God, that didn't work, that didn't work. So I think it's important to have a career coach because they will be that mirror that you are literally having that conversation with. And they will find your strengths for you, even if you can't, because you got them somewhere in there, but they will just eke it out that for you. So I think it's important to have a partner in your journey.
I love the way you described that, a partner in your journey. And Claudia says, it was because I'd worked with a career coach that I found the courage to train as a coach and set up my own business 12 years ago. Yeah, I think coaches have all helped us, which is why we want to share that, don't we, and spread that difference that it can make. Carol, what do you think?
In addition to what Janice and Suki said, I would add that a coach can help you to increase your self-awareness so that you can see what it is that you need to do in order to put yourself in the best position, in order to promote yourself, in order to overcome those self-limiting beliefs that may be keeping you stuck or not allowing you to be at your optimal or at your best or present yourself at your best. So career coach can help with all that, to help you to remove those limitations that you're putting on yourself and to see yourself for who you really are, the fabulous person that you are, and what you bring to the table.
Lovely, thank you. And Joseph?
Yeah, so all that, thank you very much for all that. It just reminds me that we are human beings, and oftentimes it's who we are being that powers us, that energizes us. Now, a career coach can help you clarify in your mind your personal values, your personal vision, the clarity between a job that you're doing and the career that you're pursuing. All that clarity can then help you be who you want to be in the job or where you're heading to, because you're going to spend more time, many times we don't think of this, you're going to spend more time at work than you are with your loved ones who are more important to you. So in that space and in what you're doing, who you are being, and I think a career coach can help you clarify that so that you can bring your full self to the role. That is where you will make progress. That is where your successes will come from.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Some really, really useful points there to really help us think about actually, who can help us, what can help us. No person is an island, are they? And we all do need support to help us on our journey. And there's no shame in getting that support. I was mentioning when we had our pre-chat that someone described me as their secret weapon. They loved the fact that they had me in their back pocket to help them on their journey. And something, Carol, you mentioned was this idea of helping with negotiating as well. I don't know if you want to speak to that just for a moment.
Yes, so oftentimes when you're going for promotion, you may have to negotiate your terms and conditions, your salary, and a coach can help, the career coach can help you with that. That's something that many people don't like doing, is negotiating. They shy away from negotiating because they see it, they're often it's at the root of it is a fear of rejection and being told no. Across the value that you bring and why you deserve what you're asking for.
Fantastic, thank you. So I've got one last question for the coaches, which is, what's the big coaching question that anyone seeking promotion should ask themselves? And while you're all thinking about that, we had a little brainstorm about how to find the right coach for you. And we said word of mouth, LinkedIn, look at people's websites, look at socials, use directories like our executive coach directory that we have. Make sure you have an initial call and make sure there's rapport. Ask about coaches' experience and credentials. Prepare your questions in advance so you know what to ask them. And also be as clear as you can about what you want from a coach. Help use the coach to talk through the consequences. What are the pluses and minuses of me getting this promotion? So those are some top tips for you. But our final coaching question is, what's the big, so we're going to ask, I'm asking all of you, what's the big coaching question that anyone seeking promotion now should ask themselves? What do you think, Joseph?
I would say, what impact will this promotion have on my life? Both what benefits it will bring as well as what costs there will be. Lovely question.
Janice?
I'm copying on from Joseph a bit, but what does this promotion mean to me actually? What does it really mean and what does it look like for me?
Lovely. And Carol?
My question is, it's a bit of sort of two in one. So what will I do differently as a result of attending this webinar? What will I do differently to position myself for promotion and to get it? And who can help me and support me on that journey? And if you want to share what you're going to do differently in the chat, then please do so, because then it might encourage somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you put it out into the world, then
that's right.
Accountability there as well. So thank you, Carol. And Suki.
Oh, I don't think I can add more than just to say, I think what Joseph, Janice and Carol said, and yourself, is this promotion right for me, both work-wise and work-life balance? Because one of the things I think we forget is, I always remember that during my career, I always wanted to be an HR director. And I went to a meeting where lots of HR directors were there, and my HR directors just said, go on for this meeting. And I realized when I was in this meeting, they were doing 70, 80 hours a week. After that, I realized, no, that is not, I don't want to be an HR director after that at all. So I started looking at other avenues about coaching. It's about enjoying your life journey. So I think it's important to ask what this promotion will do for me in that sense. But deep down, think clearly 5 to 10 years time as well, not just immediately, because immediately is great, rosy, and then 5 years down the line, things change. So always, I'm not saying I'm a very focused individual like myself, but it's always be open to changes and just be there. It's like Carol said, we got loads of experience that you can tap into. So we're here to do that for you as well. So just be yourself and just look to that horizon. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. I think that's a lovely ending for us. So just to let you know that our next event is on the 30th of June. I want to become a leader who coaches. How do you do it? So if you would like some top tips and skills to use coaching in your work life, that's going to be amazing for you. I want to say a big thank you to Suki, to Janice, to Joseph, to Carol. They gave you so much knowledge, so much insight, such a wealth of experience that they brought. So do check them out in our diverse executive coach directory, and the link is in the chat there. And it's just been amazing. Thanks for your participation, for your knowledge, for your experience also that you shared. And to find out more about me and what I do, you can also go to jennygarrett.global. So thank you so much. I hope you found it valuable today. We will share resources as well as the video for today with you. So everything that we've mentioned, we'll give you links to. Hopefully you can continue on this journey. Thanks so much. Have a great day. And we hope to see you in future sessions. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Stop recording.